Welcome back, guys. Coach Barrick here, frame by frame. We're breaking the jerk down today. Shout out to Courtney for doing this. Full disclosure with her, you can tell she's a little red. This is the end of a very long workout with 800-meter runs in it with a moderately heavy clean and jerk. Whereas I'm over here all not sweating in pants doing an EMOM, not under stress. So what we're going to focus on is the jerk today. And the main thing that we're going to be focusing on is tension in the jerk. And we're going to focus on that in two areas. The first area we're going to focus on is the legs, specifically the knees and the hips. So what we're going to see here when Courtney starts moving into her dip part of the jerk is that her knees collapse in so that the knees are in, so they're pointing. And that's going to do a bunch of things. The ankle is going to have a tendency to collapse. We are not turning on our posterior chain. So when the knees are in, that's going to be more of a quad-based movement, which is one of the main reasons we see the knees in a lot on dips. But it doesn't let us use our glutes and our hamstrings, and we want to be able to use those. So we see those knees almost touch. And that is not, just kind of looking at that, you're like, that's probably not a strong position to be in, right? Now, all because we know that intellectually, that doesn't mean that it's easy to do. It takes training, it takes repetition in order to build a movement pattern in. So you're going to see me here. Like I said, I'm doing an EMOM. So I have a little more, I'm not in the middle of a workout. So what you're going to see here is my feet are a little wide probably, but I'm going to dip, reset. Where is it at? Come on. There we go. So you're going to see what happens. See how my knees are going out. My torso is staying relatively vertical. Knees out. And we like this. The heels stay on the ground when I do this. I'm able to push through the entire floor. You can see a little bit of that toe coming up. That's not ideal, but generally I have more in contact with the floor. What this also does is think about the tension that I'm building in my hips. When the knees go in, it's very hard to get tension in the hip. The hip is going to feel very loose. And that's why I wanted to focus on tension in the jerk. Your hips are going to be very loose. They're not going to have that external rotation and be able to create power throughout the hip. So what we want to do is we want to externally rotate that hip on both sides, and that's going to give us more power. It's going to give us more tension in our dip. So now we can transfer that power from our hip into the bar. So this is the first thing. Knees tracking over the toes, maybe even slightly out, and that torso nice and up. Now, the next thing is you're going to notice, if we come back, we're going to move to the upper body now. Okay, Courtney's elbows are very high right now. And you're like, yeah, that's a great rack position. The bar's close, really high. But then when she dips, we get that valgus knee, and then notice what the elbows do. They come down, like really aggressive. And then look what the bar does. The bar also comes down. All right? So what we'll say is, hey, we want to keep those elbows up the entire time. So you can notice in the bottom of my dip at the top here, and then in the bottom of my dip, my elbows do not change relative to the ground. Right? They're parallel to the ground. Right? Whereas if we come here, come back. Her elbows are there, and then they drop. Like look at how big that drop is. Really big drop. So we don't want that. Now, usually, like I said, I would just say high elbows or keep them high. But I think what the issue is actually happening is a lack of tension in the shoulders. So when she's up in this position, you have to be loose. You have to be relaxed. And we do want a little bit of that, but we need to be able to feel that tension. And the reason that the elbows are dropping is so that she can feel tension in her shoulders and in her arms. She wants to be able to feel tight so she can move that bar over there. We want to keep those elbows high. I want to feel that tension in my shoulders. If we zoom in really far on mine, that's as far as you get. You can see how my shoulder kind of pops up in front of the bar. See that? And then when we're here, you notice how there's no shoulder on the front of the bar here on Courtney's, right? We want to be able to see some of that shoulder. We want to put it onto the shoulders. And what that's going to do, it's going to put some tension on the shoulders. So that's what we're looking for. And I think she has a lack of that. So actually what I would like to see is those elbows actually come down and out, right? So you're going to see that my elbows just aren't up. They're down and they're out. Down and out, just like with the knees. We want that same thing. That's going to help build a little bit of tension that we want. Not just tension in the shoulder, but tensions in the upper back. So now when we combine knees out, elbows out, then we're going to be able to transfer, if we move over, I'm going to be able to transfer that force from my hips into the bar. And I can push underneath. All right. Now, there are some other things that we could break down in this video, but that is the main thing that I want to focus on today. All right. When we dip, we need tension in our hips by externally rotating that hip, making sure that those knees are out. Relatively vertical torso, short dip, about 3 inches. Then we want the elbows to be up and out with some shoulder on the other side of that bar. We want tension in our upper back. When we create that external rotation in the shoulder by pushing our elbows up and out, we're going to be able to push that weight. We're going to be able to explode, to jump that weight overhead. Pop. I just extend it and that bar is just leaving. I'm not even pressing. I'm just creating power and that bar gets to that height that I want. Pop. Then I can push under that bar. All right. External rotation, knees out in the dip. External rotation, shoulders up and out in the front rack. Thank you guys so much for adding another tool to your toolbox. If you have a video for me that you'd like broken down, shoot me a message. I'd love to do it. Cheers.